Early in the 20th century, breeders discovered that if you cross corn plants from inbred lines, you get unusual results. First, all of the seeds from the first generation of an inbred cross are both genetically identical and are more robust than either parent. But more importantly, the seeds that those clones will go on to produce grow unevenly and with dramatically lower yields, making them effectively worthless to a commercial farmer seeking to maximize his bushels per acre. Enter Monsanto Corporation. Founded in St. Louis in 1901, what began as a small chemical firm is now the dominating force in the American seed market. Monsanto didn't develop the process of inbred seeding, but since the company's entrance into the seed business, they have used this practice to divorce farmers from saving their own seeds to be planted the year after. Now farmers buy seed before every planting, and most of those seeds come from a single source. Through aggressive acquisition of smaller agricultural vendors and seed sellers, Monsanto's subsidiary American Seeds Incorporated has gained a virtual monopoly over the market, a single company responsible for the sale of 80% of corn seeds and 93% of American soybeans, the two largest agricultural products of the United States. What's so bad about having a seed monopoly? The separation of farmers from the recurring source of seeds might be the least radical shift to occur in farming over the past century. And thanks to Monsanto and fellow seed companies DuPont and Syngenta, farmers anywhere can compare seeds side by side in a catalog before they purchase them. And through the miracles of genetic modification, crop yields per acre are higher than ever dreamed possible. The massive river of cheap corn that flows out of the Midwest finds its comparisons only among the wonders of human architecture. But proponents of Monsanto and the industrial agriculture it supports miss the big picture. Agriculture, unlike any other industry, is based around the raising of living things, and therefore the natural laws governing the business are necessarily different. The most dangerous implication of a centralized seed corporation is the threat it poses to biodiversity. Biodiversity is the degree of variation in the life forms occupying a given environment, a crucial aspect of the natural world which modern American agriculture ignores when it is not blatantly attacking it. Commercial corn farms feature monoculture fields on which hundreds of acres are planted with not only a single species of crop, but clones, thousands of genetically identical organisms growing shoulder to shoulder. Because there is no genetic variation in the population, any outbreak of fungus or bacteria will spread rapidly, with devastating results. Remember learning about the Irish potato famine in high school? In the 1840s, a fungus called blight ravaged the Irish potato crop, a single plant which served as the staple food for a third of the country's population. Over 10 years, 1 million Irish starved and another million emigrated, reducing the population of a country by a full quarter. And through vicious acquisition of and litigation against local farmers, small-scale ag companies, and regional seed banks, Monsanto does its damnedest to reduce the genomes of plant species available to farmers. Over 100 varieties of pea used to grow in the United States. Now 90% of the market is for varieties. And the story is even worse for the crops which occupy the majority of American farmland. In a product market, where you sell your product doesn't affect how it works. A car will drive the same way in Georgia and California, and an iPod will turn on in Canada just like it does in Mexico. This is another way in which agriculture differs from factory industry. Despite Monsanto's incessant hammering on the genetics of the seeds they distribute, there simply isn't a way to make one seed that grows equally well under multiple regional conditions. So how does Monsanto provide the seeds to almost every farm in America with only a handful of varieties?
Improved Roundup. Now so effective, it even beats the weather.
Because Monsanto is not just a seed business. Monsanto Corporation is also the world's leading producer of glyphosate herbicide, more commonly known as Roundup. By eliminating regional alternatives and patenting seeds genetically resistant to an herbicide they also own a patent on, Monsanto has warped the traditional farm sense of planting the crop that will grow best on your soil to the reductionist ideal of planting whatever, regardless of climate and other environmental factors, and maintaining plant health through chemical insecticides, weed killers, and fertilizers. The problem with these modern methods are far-reaching, disastrous, and largely ignored. The Gulf of Mexico is riddled with hypoxic zones, some the size of New Jersey, where fertilizer runoff from the Corn Belt farms induce massive algae blooms that block out the sun and create massive fish kills. During the planting season in Kentucky, the government issues blue baby alerts because nitrates from fields in the water supply can cause fatal circulatory problems in children. But perhaps the most relevant problem with chemical agriculture is how our food supply has become linked to the grand clusterfuck that is our nation's oil industry. In short, not only is Monsanto's business practice murderously profitable, but profoundly unsustainable as well. So how did they do it? How did a firm that started up selling artificial sweetener come to control our heartland and our food supply? It wasn't without help. Since the dawn of the era of the supermarket, Monsanto has been influencing the legislation regarding the regulation of their products. The relationship between the federal government and biotech corporations is so casual the term revolving door is often used to describe it. Meet Michael Taylor. Taylor graduated from UVA in 1976, after which he got a job in the Federal Food and Drug Administration, where he rose through the ranks rapidly. After leaving the FDA, he worked for the high-powered Washington law firm King & Spalding, where he represented Monsanto's efforts to garner FDA approval for recombinant bovine growth hormone, a chemical injection to make dairy cows more productive. In 1991, he returned to the FDA as Deputy Commissioner of Policy. From 1994 to 1996, he worked in the United States Department of Agriculture. He left that job to become the Vice President of Public Policy for Monsanto, a position he held until 2009 when President Obama reappointed him to the FDA as a senior advisor. Clinton cabinet member Mickey Cantor, former director of the EPA William Ruckelshaus, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, and Secretary of Defense under the Bush administration Donald Rumsfeld have all worked for or profited from mergers with Monsanto. In the 2010 election cycle, Monsanto donated over $650,000 to federal candidates, 48% to Democrats and 52% to Republicans. In 2010 alone, Monsanto spent $6,550,000 lobbying the federal government, hoping to sway the outcome of court cases regarding the legality of unregulated genetically engineered alfalfa planting. In January 2011, despite admitting in its final environmental impact statement that genetically engineered alfalfa poses risks to both organic and conventional farming, the USDA approved full deregulation. Let it be clear, this is not a red issue or a blue issue. Politicians on both sides of the aisle have sacrificed the health of our communities and our children for mansions and stock options. Both our dignity and soil have steadily eroded and been replaced with food that doesn't nourish us and a conflict in the Middle East which has lasted for over 30 years. So it looks like we've got these corporations gleefully dreaming up new ways to poison us, rising food prices, and a government full of talking heads who do little more than put the signatures in the correct spots. Progressive candidates advance social issues but leave the corrupt core of our nation's problems untouched. When you look too long, your eyes swim. The Gordian knot of our petro-agro-military-industrial complex has wreaked so much havoc on the world, it seems like doomsday might not even wait until next December. And whether it goes down fast or slow, know that from the very beginning, Monsanto has been tied in.
My opinion is solid ground, but you're a common hater. Splitting and dividing our numbers like a denominator. Third eye navigator movements are necessary. Everything you see in videos is secondary. You need positivity like you need respect in jail, because without balance you'll be making negative record sales.
Negative record sales.
I jerk off inside books and give life to words, leaving concepts stuck together you probably never heard.